Hey guys, in today's episode we are going to be talking about procedural content generation in Unreal Engine 5.2 preview. You can download it from the Epic Games launcher. It's a new version that's gone public, so you can just go ahead and download it and start using the new features, which in our case we are going to talk about this one, which is procedurally generating content for us. In my case, these are just some rotten trees that are just here to show you how it works. Okay, so to start this off, just go ahead to the edit plugins. Okay, procedural content generation framework. This should be ticked on. Just turn it on and restart the editor as it wants you to do so. Okay, and for all the meshes that we are using right now, you can just go ahead in the Epic Games launcher in the marketplace and type in tree and come here on the free tab and use this one. It's for mega scans trees. There are a lot of different trees. It's like 6 or 7 gigabytes of trees. You can go ahead and use all the assets in that. It's all free, but right now I'm not using those assets. I'm just using this rotten tree stump inside the bridge. If you don't know how to use bridge inside Unreal Engine 5, just go ahead in your window, that's in here, in your Unreal Engine window, and Quixel bridge, and then you have to sign in and just add whatever you want. Just hit download, and when it's downloaded you can just add it to your project. It's as simple as that. Okay, so when you've turned on the plugin, you can just go ahead and right click in your content browser and PCG graph. Once you created one, you can just drag it in your scene and double click on it to open the editor. I've already created something here because I wanted to show you that it works actually, but let's start from scratch. I mean, somehow. So let's delete this one out. Okay, this will be the first thing you're gonna see when you first open the editor right now. So if you just go ahead and surface sampler, just as if you do it in the blueprint section or in the material editor, right click surface sampler, and you have a surface, you have the bounding shape, you have a lot of other parameters that you can get them exposed. So if we open this one up, we have the landscape. We've created a landscape here. Just go ahead into your landscape and create a landscape. Assign a material to it, which, by the way, I didn't go really complicated. I just wanted to show you something, so I just assigned something, download it from the bridge, and then assigned a material, a grass material, to my landscape. So if you just connect the landscape to the surface and right click debug, you can see there are some points that are generated for you. You can change the points by changing points density and different variables by changing the numbers around here. So if we ever want to go higher, I don't know if, yeah, it's not gonna go any higher because we have to first make this one bigger. Oh no, smaller, I'm sorry, because they don't collide with each other. So if you want more points, you need to go ahead and change a points extent, actually lower the value here if you want to go really high. But keep that in mind that if you want to go really low on this one and really high on this one, it will probably crash. You can't really see anything. Yeah, there you go. There are some points, but they are really small, so you can't really see them much. Okay, 10 would be nice. So if we want to go to something like 3, we have some points, and if we want to go even higher, we have more points. It's as simple as that. We don't want this much points, by the way. I mean, 1 would be, I mean, too much, I guess. But anyway, if you just go ahead and you can actually spawn something on these points. That's the whole point, right? To spawn something procedurally on some points that are procedurally generated for you. So static mesh spawner, And for the, let's go ahead and use my already created static mesh. I have you can add element in here, and I've already added one, a rotten tree that I just showed you. And you can change the call start distance, call end distance. These are some other things that are related to rendering that you should probably know by now. So there are some rotten trees that are being generated for us, but they are too much. They are too much. Okay, so how we can fix that? Surface sampler, 1 is too much. Let's go ahead and to 0.1. Yeah, 0.1 is still too much. Maybe 5. Yeah, that looks better. Instead of using these meshes, you can go ahead and use trees, flowers, roads, signs. Whatever mesh you want to use. Actually, these are only some points, as I just showed you. If I disable this one, these are some points that there are some meshes going on top of them. It's as simple as that. So now that you've understood the basics of it, let's go ahead and change the mesh attributes a little bit. So select this one. Okay, so if you want to have trees that you want them to point to the sky, you don't want them to either spawn on a slope or on a really high slope field, or you want them to always spawn pointing to the sky, you can use this node, normal to density. So we can just go ahead and type in normal to density. So, and then you have to filter it out, density filter. Yeah, this one. Okay, so let's change the values and see them in real time. Let's crank this one up a little bit so we can have more trees. Okay, so let's make this one a little bit lower, and probably let's disable the debug on this one. Okay, so, and this is too much. Okay, so we've set the normals to 0.86 and then the strength. With changing these to, you can just go ahead and make sure that the trees, or in the other words, the points don't spawn on the fields that are having a really high slope. So if we come here, these aren't going to be spawned on this really high slope area. We can, if we want them to spawn, we need to have no high slope. This is something that we've set right now using the normal to density, and then filter the density out. And one other thing that I want to talk about is the rotation of the trees. So if you want the trees to be spawned on a, for example, we want them to be spawned on the, in here, okay? Let's maybe 0.5, okay, to have some less trees spawned. So if you want them to spawn on the high slope areas, but you don't want the rotation to be like this, you want them to point a little bit more to the sky, you can transform the points, transform points, and then use this one. You can just go ahead and click the absolute rotation. It will just make them all point to the sky. If you don't want to do that, I mean, it's not really, it doesn't look really good, by the way. We can fix this issue. I mean, in nature, all the trees don't really look to the sky. They have a little bit slight changes in the rotation degrees. So let's do that. We don't want the absolute rotation. We want something like -10 to 10, -10 to 10, -10 to 10. Save it out. I believe it's still too much. Let's go ahead and do a -5, 5, -5, 5, -5, 5. It's a little bit more believable, I guess, but I believe this shouldn't spawn in here. So let's go ahead in our normal to density and make the strength a little bit higher, or do it like this. Oh, I've got too much. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we have some trees that look somewhat natural. The rotation is kind of natural, but there's another problem. They're not stuck to the ground because the rotation is a little bit changed. So how we can fix it? In the transform points, you have an offset. You can just go ahead and change the offset if you want to. Oh, actually, you can change the scale min and max as well. So we can just go ahead and... Oh, okay. So, and the offsets, you can probably -5 to -10 would do the trick. Yeah, it will just make them go a little bit to the ground so they don't really look as bad. It's not as bad actually. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. And to fix this one, you have to go through the material editor and edit both materials to collide with each other and to somehow be able to fade them out together and to make it more natural. And you can, in the mesh entries, you can add another mesh, probably. Maybe just this one. Let's see how it looks. Okay, this is too small, but you get the idea. You can have two meshes out of a surface sampler, or you can have a complete different mesh and have it come into the output. So we can just go ahead and probably 0.2 and maybe we don't want this one, and maybe we want to change this one to a flower. And there you go, you have some flowers as well. And if you just change them, they'll update eventually. And you can, again, you can add another mesh with another surface sampler. And this one probably would be like this. Maybe maybe we change the seed a little bit. That would make more sense. And change it to this one. And yeah, now we have more variation and we're starting to build something in here. Now we can add more meshes to the graph and then make it a little bit more complicated, and then we have a jungle or whatever we want to have actually go procedural, and it can be generated procedurally on pretty much everything. And that's the power of Unreal Engine 5.2, the procedural content generation. And this was it. I hope this was helpful for you, and if it was, please hit that like button. Cheers.